Hello, everyone. My name is Naroa Coretti. I'm a PhD student here at the City Science Group, and I will be talking about lightweight community-scale mobility. So for thousands of years, cities used to be human-centric hubs of innovation where people were living and working within a walkable distance. The streets were full of people biking, walking, and interacting with each other. However, in less than 100 years, the introduction of the car caused a dramatic shift in urbanism, and since then, cities have been designed for cars and not longer for people. The consequence is that now the streets are full of asphalt, parking spaces, and cars. As a consequence of this, now we have cities with polluted air, full of traffic noise, and in which we spend countless hours of our lives stuck in traffic congestions. Moreover, mobility is one of the largest contributors to CO2 emissions, and what is even worse is that they keep increasing. So if we want future cities to be vibrant and sustainable, there is a clear need to rethink urban mobility systems. Many people tend to think that electric vehicles will somehow solve all of the mobility problems that we have, but the truth is that in order to really reduce mobility emissions, we need to address all of the factors that increase them. So mobility emissions are generated and can be modeled as a combination of the total population size that we have. Then we need to consider how much people travel on average. We need to consider the energy consumption per mile of the vehicles that we're using, and finally, the carbon emissions of the energy sources that are being used. So if you want to reduce mobility emissions, and we consider that population is something that we cannot alter, we are left with 3 levers to act upon. If we take a look into the case of Massachusetts, for example, in Massachusetts, people travel on average for 45 kilometers per day. 98% of this distance is traveled by car, and only around 2% of the cars are electric vehicles. So as a consequence of this, the average person in Massachusetts emits 2.1 tons of CO2 per person a year just in average daily trips. So this means that just mobility is eating up almost all of the carbon budget that we have for 2050. If we look at the case of Kendall Square here in Cambridge, things are a little bit different because the use of public transit and shared bicycles helps to remove some of the car miles, but still 94% of the distance is traveled by cars. But what is different in Kendall is that people tend to live in more medium and high density areas, so people travel on average for 17 kilometers instead of 45. So as a consequence of this reduction in travel needs and a slightly lower car dependency, the average person in Kendall emits 0.8 tons of CO2. So this is much lower than the Massachusetts average. However, we think that we can take these numbers even further. And in the model that we are proposing for future Kendall, there would be even a greater accessibility to jobs and amenities. And then the distances per day could drop as low as 1.6 kilometers per day. And then for these short distances, we would substitute cars for more lightweight and sustainable mobility modes. And lastly, we would transition from fossil fuels to more renewable energy sources. So our model predicts that by a combination of all of these factors, the emissions could drop as low as 0.01 tons per person a year. So Ronan has already talked about some of the land use interventions that we can do. Ken has addressed some of the energy-related interventions. So you might be wondering, what are these new vehicles that we are talking about? The vehicles that we're proposing are electric and shared lightweight autonomous vehicles that would provide a door-to-door service. So the idea is that these systems can work as a mobility on-demand system. So you can call for a ride through a mobile app, and then an autonomous vehicle would drive autonomously to pick you up. In this video, you're seeing a prototype of the persuasive electric vehicle, or PEV, which was developed in our lab. But however, we don't think that this should be restricted to a single type of vehicle, but we rather imagine an ecosystem of different vehicles that are lightweight, shared, and autonomous that would provide different services in different scenarios. So with this idea in mind, we transitioned the same technology into this more lightweight vehicle. This is a bicycle that has two rear wheels that provide the necessary stability for the bicycle to drive autonomously, but then the 2 wheels fold into a single wheel so that the user can ride it just as a regular bicycle. So the idea of these systems is that if we are able to bring the efficiency and the convenience of mobility systems like Uber or Lyft into mobility, into lightweight and sustainable mobility modes, we can incentivize more people to use them. So in addition to prototyping vehicles, we have also studied their fleet-level performance. And for that, we have built an agent-based model in which we took bicycle usage data from here, from Boston, and then we modeled the current systems for shared bicycles, which are station-based and dockless systems, and we compared them with the autonomous system that we are proposing. And as a result of this study, we saw that with a fleet size that would be 3.5 times smaller than current station-based systems and 8 times smaller than current dockless systems, we can have a bicycle sharing program that would have a greater efficiency and that would improve the user experience that we are providing. Then another very interesting thing that we learned in this study is that while conventional vehicles are used for around 2% of the time, the autonomous ones can be used for over 8% of the time. So this is a fourfold increase in bicycle usage, so this is great. But at the same time, we also realized that this means that there is still a 92% of the time when these vehicles are not being used throughout the day. So maybe the same vehicles that are used as a mobility-on-demand system during the morning rush hour can do other tasks throughout the day. So for example, they could deliver food at lunchtime, they could deliver packages in the afternoon, or even, who knows, pick up trash at night. So by increasing the number of functions that the vehicles have throughout the day, we could greatly reduce the overall number of vehicles that we have in cities. And as a consequence, there would be plenty of shared urban space that has been traditionally allocated for cars that would be now free for new users. So we can now start to imagine which are the new uses that we want to give to this space in order to create more sustainable and vibrant cities. So with that, I will give the word to Alex Berg, who will talk about low carbon diets. Thank you.